There's so much else that happened in this episode, and it's so satisfying to see. Let's actually drift over to Tommy, because he's sort of our through line in the game. We know that he was present with Joel. And Chelsea, I love your observation that had Tommy been there, whether it's, game Tommy or show Tommy, maybe the odds would have felt a lot different.
It would have been more of a fight against the situation, I think, rather than Joel just kind of accepting his fate.
Yeah.
Especially because the person that he most is responsible for, he kept Joel in this show kept looking back at Jackson. His heart was with everyone that he loves in Jackson. He wasn't fearful about himself. He was fearful about the raging fire that he saw out the window. And that to me is a mark of how well Pedro's acted, but also where Joel, everything that he cared about, everything that he saved was far away from here. And I think that would have been the way that he preferred to die, not with anyone he knows or cares about being close and in harm's way. But as you said earlier, Chelsea, in our part one, in our previous video, the decision to leave Tommy and Jackson felt right. I agree. And the show has given him a child. The show has given him so much more pillar of the community vibes. He has to run the essentially siege resistance plan. He has to make sure everyone's at their stations. He can't be going out even on a patrol, even on his with his brother in this moment, because the Tommy of the show really wouldn't abandon his post that way.
Yeah. Well, and this is something I loved about this episode. I feel like it's another way that this creative team is adding to the world of The Last of Us, because we got to hear about cases of Jackson being attacked in the game, but we never actually had this whole sequence of a horde of infected attacking Jackson play out. So getting to see how that happened here, getting to see sort of the artillery and the battlements and all of the strategies that Tommy put into place for Jackson was really a treat, because as a player of the game, I felt like I was getting something new out of the story. It was really, really, my heart was running 100 miles an hour throughout that entire sequence as we pivoted back and forth between what was going on in Jackson and what was going on up in the mountains with Joel and, and company. So it really was just a nail biter of an episode, even though I pretty much knew where we were going to end up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the emotional build of this episode is just so intense across both things that are simultaneously happening. It felt like a thriller or horror episode. Mm-hmm. This was their exploration of that genre, because even in season one, we got very little infected, certainly not to this extent. And I mentioned this earlier, I was on the verge of tears for the entire time, because we knew what was going to happen with Joel. We didn't know for sure. I mean, we could hope what was going to happen to Jackson, but this is something we've already said that's not in the game. We were experiencing it for the first time. And so for us to immediately have the payoff from the previous episode of this supercharged infected that are evolving and learning to insulate themselves from the cold by using their own dead bodies, and then using that to build an attack and plan an attack. And we already get the payoff of the mycelium that was in the pipes in Jackson in the previous episode too. So immediately we're jumping into the stakes of how the infected have changed. And I'm just blown away. The shot of thousands, hundreds of infected swarming. Like you said, Laura, that's not something we would do in the game, because as a single player, you cannot fight an entire swarm of hundreds, thousands of infected. It's not a thing you can do. And so for them to present that to us is just insane. And the terror of it. Go ahead.
For those people who are wondering about the game, there is a horde of infected during these scenes. Abby escapes. The scene with Abby and the chain link fence, absolutely 100%
Yep.
perfectly adapted exactly in the
Yep.
game. There is a horde of infected, but there is not a coordinated attack on Jackson. There are hordes of infected that are just one-offs, that are just groups of people that all got infected roughly around the same time, and they just happen to be coming at the same time. It's not due in the way that the show illustrates to a particular response or to a particular storm, but where this show is going with strategic infected, I literally am wondering, did they wait for a storm to attack when visibility would be poor? Like, we just don't know. You know what creeped me out? The bloater, which, oh, welcome back.
Yeah.
Welcome back, buddy.
Oh, welcome back, big boy.
Welcome back, big
We
boy.
missed you.
Oh, that needs to be a title of something.
We're just
social
gonna call him Big Boy for the
Big
rest
boy.
of the season.
A
Big
different
Boy's
big boy
back.
than the one that killed Perry, but you know, all the same. When he was when he looked up at Maria from the ground and she was shooting at him, and he looked up and made a plan to go for her. Hello, like that. I mean, that level of consciousness, and to be fair, I think bloaters do react that way in the game, but to see this on the show, the way that like an infected can carry a grudge is sort of next level precedent that has not been shown on the show before, and in the game it's very rare.
Yeah, for sure. It really does. It had me questioning, like, how exactly do the infected, this frozen horde, like, even come to consciousness? Because there are a couple of things that happen. One, Abby slides into the valley of the frozen infected, and it seems like her just shuffling on top of them wakes them up. But at the same time, in Jackson, one of the workers is cracking open another one of those clay pipes and disturbing some more cordyceps, and he visibly sees them, and they start making contact with the air. So is it some kind of just convenient timing that Abby happened to wake everybody up just as the cordyceps were getting exposed to the air in Jackson, and they were like, hey, dinner's over there, we can go chow down at the Jackson buffet, you know?
Right. Well, it seemed
Jackson
like there were
buffet.
two simultaneous giant hordes. There was the one that was chasing Abby and
Yep.
Joel and Dina, and then there was another one that when they dug into the clay pipes separately woke up. And then because they're all connected to this mycelial network, they were all drawn at that moment to Jackson. And so we see
like,
these two
yeah.
swarms separating and then converging together as they get closer to the town. And just the sheer numbers of that, there's no possibility of retreat with infected. Like, these are smarter infected, but they're not going to stop an attack because they're losing, right? They're going to attack until they're gone.
No,
Victory
to
for the
the-
people
yeah.
of Jackson can only be total annihilation of this attacking force, and failure is anything less than that. So the threat to the people of Jackson is so high here, and you see it in Tommy's eyes as he's standing on that wall looking out. And I mean, it's a real consideration that this is the end of their community that they've spent so hard putting together, protecting their people, building families, living lives. Everybody has so much to lose here. Tommy has the chance of losing Joel, losing Maria or his child, or vice versa, them losing him, the town itself. And all the little looks during this fight as they breach the wall, and the bloater comes in and makes contact with Maria, and Tommy makes a decision to try and sacrifice himself to draw it away. There's all these little moments where they make this eye contact with each other, where they know it's like the potential actual goodbye of their relationship, and they know the stakes, they know the cost, but they're willing to make those sacrifices for what they believe is the higher purpose.
Here's the thing:
Yeah.
the Jackson is quaint. The church services, the Christmas carols, the deli are very quaint. They ain't worth a damn if you do not have a plan for a siege. And seeing that plan, those drills that they're going on, the patrols, seeing those brought to their natural conclusion, which is in a successful thwarting of a massive, massive mob. Good on Tommy and everyone involved. We actually see a successful, like a victory for humankind. And it was not a sure thing. It was only down to the level of planning, even just the kids go in the basement, barricade the door. We know some infected got in a shop. They were trying to get in that door. Like the adults going up. It was just so unpredictable when the moment comes. It's like, this is a masterclass in how do you prepare for what you can't possibly prepare for. They did it. And in this case, they were victorious. But here's the other thing. The victory was not a sure thing for their part either. The fact that they won, great, but they could very easily have been a infected wasteland by now.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, how do they rebuild from here too, right? And like, I'm sure next episode we'll get to see the full fallout because it's not like Jackson escaped completely unscathed. We know some people were lost. We know some people, I mean, we saw towards the end of the episode at least one person asking to be taken out because they had been bitten, so they didn't want to turn. So we'll get to see some of that next week. But, you know, what does it take for Jackson to rebuild, especially knowing how vulnerable they are right now?
Right.
And there are things worse than bloaters. If the universe of the games translates to the network, and all it took was one bloater to breach those wooden walls.
The fact that Tommy saw the bloater and immediately knew they were going to breach.
He's met one of those guys before, I think.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, these ones. They're the muscle.
You know what made me so happy about the bloater? We got to get the flamethrower out, and I was like, that was for the game players. They were like, we got to get the flamethrower out.
Who among us, literally, how many times have you been there? You have what, 250 flame or gas, or 300 flame, or 175 because you used some flame on some seraphites that you shouldn't have, and you're like, do I have enough space in the tank to fully handle this bloater? I'm out of grenades, I'm out of nail bombs, I'm out of everything. All I have is my flamethrower and a pistol. The pistol's shit. Do I have enough tank for this bloater? And Tommy, in this episode, was 100% exactly right there where we all have been.
Man, the desperation, like, is this going to be enough?
Just enough in the tank.
Definitely felt that the initial feeling of satisfaction of like, that's right, take this motherfucker, and then it's like they're not going down, and you're like, I am running out of gas.
I guess try.
Yeah, he's backed into a literal corner.
Yeah, so satisfying, so good. But yeah, I love what they did with Tommy this episode. I thought it was a really nice departure.
Well, he still gets the same character motivation for his arc that we know about from the game. Like, he has the exact same motivations. He didn't need to be there in the room. We get so much more out of him not being in the room.
Right. And seeing the end of the aftermath of the battle as Tommy walks back out into the main street and he and Maria make contact with each other. They both made it through. And for him to almost like collapse against her with both like the physical and emotional toll that this battle took on him. As we've said, there's a lot to rebuild in Jackson, and it's not just the buildings, it's the sense of safety that they built. And they're going to have to start the next episode with the realization that Joel is also gone and deal with what comes after that.
We made some predictions leading into this season, and one of the things, spoiler, whatever, that we were talking about, I think it's safe, so I'm just going to say it, is that the director of next week's episode is the same director who directed Long Time, the Nick Offerman, Murray Bartlett showcase. And based on select clips from the next week on that we saw, it does seem like we will get some of Ellie's very next moments. Her waking up, her being, kind of in recovery, and in some of the mourning of Joel. Though we may not yet know exactly the shape of next week's episode, maybe they still will do something a little bit like Long Time, which had current events, a little bit of Joel and Ellie at the gas station and showing up at Bill's house, but then most of the episode was Bill and Frank flashback. Maybe there will be some element of looking back, but here's a thought that occurred to me watching this episode. Oh, what if it's just an emotional episode about the love of Joel and how everyone in Jackson lost him? Like, I would get that director back for that. Like, even if there's no flashbacks, like, what will episode 3 hold is now an open question.
Yeah. I'm wondering, just reflecting on a line that got dropped in episode 2 tonight, and maybe y'all can remind me from the game because it's been a minute since I played Last of Us Part 2. But where Ellie has this confrontation with Jesse about what's going on with her and Joel, and she's like, me and Joel are fine, get out of our business. Like, me and Joel are just me and Joel, and actually I want to go on patrol with him. Did that happen in the game, or is that new? Because if that's been something that's been added, it could point, Eric, towards exactly what you're saying here, that next episode fills in some of the gaps about what's been going on between Joel and Ellie that we haven't gotten to see as much these last
Maybe.
couple episodes.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly how that goes down in the game either. The last shot we saw of episode 1 was Joel on the porch with his guitar after the dance, having stepped in with Seth calling, using a slur against Dina and Ellie, and then Ellie just like makes eye contact and then storms off. But we're almost led to believe in this episode that that wasn't the end of their story that night, that there might have been some kind of reconciliation, because the Ellie that we saw in episode 1 and the way she was interacting with Joel wouldn't have wanted to go on a patrol with Joel unless there had been some kind of reconciliation. So whether we get it in the next episode or later in this season, I don't think it's far-fetched to think that we might see what that moment looks like eventually.
Here's something that I wanted out of the making of, because we heard from Pedro. We saw Pedro talk about this role and this episode and that. We heard from, in fact, if you're not already on the making ofs, they're just at the end of the existing episode that you're already watching on HBO. Watch them, please.
They're really good.
Not to mention the official podcast, which also will have insights that will no doubt delight us. Last week's was great. But I think it's safe to say, although the making of does not say, although this is Joel, like Joel ain't come back to life from that, this may not be Pedro's last day of shooting on this episode for the TV show. I think it's time that we can finally reveal, Laura Chelsea, that Joel, in fact, has an identical twin. Joe Miller, who will be coming to Jackson. He's been searching. He went on those genealogy websites. Wait, they didn't exist yet in 2003. He somehow found out that he's an identical twin abandoned at birth, and he's going to show up tomorrow's or next week's episode. And, he and Tommy are going to get a reconciliation that's really good, but Pedro's very much still in the show. For that, I am joyful, but I'm also sad in a way because, Pedro was such a huge part of what made the show successful, I think. And it's such a major character I don't think we're going to easily recover, and I don't think audiences anywhere could or should be like, okay, real gung-ho about let's get the Abby and Ellie story. No, there's still a lot of mourning we have to do for Joel, and especially Pedro Pascal's Joel. I just think which was just so much more textured in the way that the show was so much more textured. So I can't wait to see how the remaining pieces of the Joel and Ellie narrative will play out across this season, maybe even the next. And I just want as much Pedro as possible. I was gunning for this death thing to happen in the finale of this season. I would have liked it if they had held up, but I think it's very ambitious of them to and bolder to stick to pretty much the timeline of where in the season, where in the game this happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think all of that gives credence to the idea that the next episode might delve into more flashbacks with Ellie and Joel. We still, in the universe of the show, haven't gotten a reason for their separation, why Ellie's been so upset with him. And so they've got to explore that at some point too. And this show isn't the type of show for that to just be a piece of dialogue from Ellie to Dina. It's something that I think that we're more likely to see actually happen between Ellie and Joel.
Yeah, for sure. Something I wanted to ask y'all about and see if I'm the only one feeling this way, and if I am, that's totally fine. But I know we spoke last week about Abby and Caitlin Deaver and her portrayal of Abby. And I think Caitlin Dever's portrayal of Abby is just spot on. I think she completely knocks it out of the park. But something that I still feel like I'm missing is a differentiation between the Abby that was and the Abby that is after her father's death. We see so little of her so far, pre her father's death, that it's really hard to denote the distinction between her character at those 2 points in time. And that is a really key part of her character in the game. They, of course, portray this through her physicality, right? Like, she gets completely buff so that she can fuck Joel's day up. I mean, that's the whole point of it. And when you see Abby in the flashbacks, she's not buff, right? Because that hasn't happened yet. That motivation hasn't reached her. And of course, in the present day, she gets, I mean, extremely militaristic, extremely buff.
A little bit more.
Yeah. I think we don't need that in the show. Again, like, we don't need the transformation to be shown through physicality. But I do want to see some kind of transformation.
Yeah, in the absence of that, what are they going to do to show it? And I think that it's in these subtle moments, like her looking really unfulfilled and traumatized after she kills Joel. Like, I think that's going to show us, because there's so much more to come with Abby character-wise. But it's like Chelsea was saying, like at the very beginning of the dream sequence, Abby's dream sequence, you know, she says to her older self, "I don't recognize you." But like, that's not necessarily earned up till this point.
Right.
It's something in a look, you know, it's something in, and that's enough. If you know, what would you do if you're 5 years down the line, future self comes, you know, and it's like, "Hey, by the way, don't go in there." And you're like, "Fuck you, I'm gonna go in there." You know, like, so, but I had a lot of confidence that it would be earned. But I will say, to your question, Laura, hearing present day Abby talk about the militia that she's joined and like the rules and stuff didn't, for me, make her seem that much more evolved. Like, it wasn't ultimately a more controlled Abby, because she's still going to do the things she needs to do and is here to do, but then also she's disregarding some of these rules that her militia has about killing people who can't defend themselves. And so the point of her bringing up this militia was a really nice look ahead to Isaac and some of the stuff that the WLF will have, which is on their backpack, but doesn't ultimately, again, sell it for me yet on Abby's entire personality changing over the last 5 years. I think the only thing that could do that is more backstory of the Seattle crew between the first shot of this season and the moment where they're showing up to kill Joel. I think we need a little bit. There's no reason why we wouldn't get it, but that for me is going to show that she like relentlessly drove them to come to Jackson. Like, I need to get more time there, because what we get in the episode is her friends almost trivialize it. They all know why she's here, and they all kind of grudgingly agreed to come with her. But none of them are true believers of the way that she is. And that absolutely, before now, would have absolutely caused tension. And so I want to see those kind of tensions, which will push Abby into the character that we know that she is now, like the darker side of it. It's almost like this episode didn't show the darkest sides of Abby. They showed what she can do, which is nuts. And what she does is insane and hard. But there is, I think, an even higher intensity that maybe is yet to be fully realized on the show.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think so. In our preview episodes, I had speculated that our next episode following Joel's death would be kind of a flashback episode giving all of the backstory of Abby, this character that we knew existed, and we knew that was going to do this thing. And I posited, I'll just own up to it. I posited that
you better
having a full flashback episode would help the viewer to understand her a little bit more. Now, it doesn't seem like that's what we're going to get in the next episode, but I still think it's something that we're going to get eventually. And what we got in this episode, I think, was at least a little taste of that. I think what they gave us was enough to at least understand in this moment why she is killing this character that we love so much.
It works better in the show than it did in the game up until this point. You just don't,
it doesn't make us like her, but it makes us understand. And I think there's still going to be something that's going to help us to like her more at some point, because I mean that's just kind of part of who she is, in our relationship to her in the game. And so I do think that we'll definitely get some more of like her time spent with her father, who we know is a surgeon. We'll get some more time spent with her friends in the before times, or at least in the transitory times between 5 years ago and present day. And we'll see some of that emotional change. Though the one thing you said, Eric, that I want to push back against very gently is that I think her friends are fully bought into the very specific mission of killing Joel. It's anything outside of that very, very specific mission of this man who they think deserves to die because of all the people that they love he killed, and this big idea of the Fireflies that he killed. And so they're behind that, and they're with her. Okay, Abby, we've been with you these 5 years. We've helped you search him down. We're here with you, and we are going to help you kill him, because that is what the thing they believe in. But it's any time she delves even just slightly outside of that plan, like the potential of kidnapping people, and then, okay, what are we going to do next? Are we just going, we can't let them go because then that endangers us, or we can't kill other people because that's not what we do. Or when Dina shows up on the scene, like, Abby can't properly threaten the Dina and hold Joel hostage because her friends speak up and say, wait, we said we weren't going to do it. And she just says, shut up. So that's when her friends start to push back. But in the mission of killing Joel, they are all in, I think.
Yeah.
I agree. I also think they want her to get on with it. I think that's the other thing is like Abby is kind of using the code, if you will, as an excuse to draw out Joel's suffering. And even Owen, I think it's Owen, comes to her at the very end and is like, hey, just end this. Just finish it.
It's gone on
Stop
enough.
drawing
We're
it
at
out.
risk.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this isn't what we signed up for. And I think we get a sense from her crew that they kind of feel like she's taking it a little too far. And it almost seems like Abby, in a very similar way that like characters like Joel and Ellie have people surrounding them saying, hey, I understand why you're pissed off, but you're actually making things worse. And I feel like her group of friends is feeling a similar way. I think they, like you said, Chelsea, I think they definitely were on board with getting rid of Joel, but I think that was it.
Well,
but
there's no way to get rid of Joel without also getting your hands dirty in all these hundreds of other ways that spring up even during this episode. They managed to get away with it, sure. But that, you know how many millions of little variables had to come for them to get Joel and only Joel on a silver platter like this? Insane. And so I think that their reticence to go any further than just killing Joel shows that they weren't prepared for this mission, because to me, there's no universe in which you're just going to get him the exact way that you did on a silver platter. But
yeah,
that said, I think something that a lot of people won't take away from this episode is that Abby showed mercy by not killing Dina, and by not, but she did, right? Am I crazy on this?
Yeah,
like she gave Joel her word that she wouldn't kill Dina, and she didn't kill Ellie. So, and I think there's even a moment in the game where Ellie like asked to be killed. Am I making that up? But like,
I don't remember.
Maybe. I don't know.
She's like, I'll kill you. You better kill me, you son of a bitch, because I'll kill you, or something like that.
Yeah.
And
I don't know
she
about
walks
mercy,
away.
though. Like, mercy is when you hold back from giving somebody the thing they deserve, or that you think they deserve, right? And it's not necessarily that they think Dina did anything wrong, or even Ellie. Like, they may not even I don't know for sure, but they may not even know.
It puts them in a precarious position to leave survivors. Like, that to me is either the mercy or another word for it. It is a conscious choice to allow witnesses, and that will be their undoing. So I think any position that leaves them vulnerable to a follow-up attack or a retaliatory attack is a deliberate choice on their part, and in Abby's case, a show of mercy. At least that's how I'm viewing it now, but I've resolved to be able to be convinced otherwise.
Well, I think no matter what, they're underestimating the victims that they're leaving behind. And what's
I think
so
that's the
funny
big thing.
about that is that in a very similar way, Joel was thoughtless about, the repercussions he was leaving behind in Salt Lake,
It didn't matter.
right? He wasn't thinking about the fact that that doctor had a daughter,
Nope. He was only
right?
thinking about his daughter.
Yeah,
Right.
everybody's so
Exactly.
singular in the things that they're trying to achieve. Whether it's Joel, I'm saving Ellie, I'm saving who I can save, or whether it's Abby, I'm killing Joel, and that's it. And what she has awakened is Ellie saying, now I am going to kill Abby. She's traded vengeance for vengeance, is what we're promised the rest of the season based on what Ellie says as she's laying there on the ground, having just seen Joel be killed. But then two, in the up next episode, we know that Ellie's got her sights set on taking her revenge.